and this is a real estate show, so I want to broaden the horizons for people. But
Right.
I think the attorney side of it is it's just a black hole for a lot of people.
Yeah, and you know what? There's so many things that come up that we didn't even talk about. I deal with a lot of situations where the seller is actually in a estate because the homeowner passed away. So if the homeowner passed away, but the deed is still in the name of the decedent, so to speak, you have to do an estate proceeding. You have to get letters of administration. There's a whole surrogates process that you have to do before you can even list the house, because you can't go into contract unless you have those letters. So there's so many little details that come up that, unfortunately, especially nowadays with everybody, passing away from this coronavirus, there's going to be a lot of surrogates work and a lot of estate sales. So we have Supreme Court, Civil Court. Surrogates Court is the court that handles probate and will matters. So when someone passes away and they have to probate an estate, they have to sell a house, they have to get letters of administration, it happens in the Surrogates Court. That's just what it's called. And the judge is called the surrogate. Every county has their own, and it really depends on where the person lived and where the property was located. That's where you would go to do that kind of work.
Thank you for explaining that. And you know what? I know it's a sensitive topic, but I think that is really important for people to know out there.
So if I get a client and it's the son of someone who passed away, for example, I'll do the estate for them, obviously for an extra fee. And then when you get the letters, then you do the closing for them also. So you have to be someone who's full service, who can do those things for you also. New York State Bar Association is looking for attorneys to volunteer for employment law, for uninsurance, and also for surrogates matters. So I'm actually volunteering for the State Bar Association and doing surrogates work for people for free. Not necessarily for closings, just people who need estates filed, because the volume is going to be immense. But if I know how to do it, at least I can give back by helping people do it. So
I know I've had buyers who are looking for foreclosures, and I said, well, it's a tricky thing right now. I mean, foreclosures are a tricky thing anyway in a normal state of affairs, but right now with people not being evicted due to paying, or if they can't pay their mortgage right now, it's a process that's going to take twice as long as it normally would. And those are just some tricky things during this time that come up with the real estate due to the pandemic. So
yeah. And I think foreclosures and evictions have been stayed through September, I think.
Wow.
They're talking about extending it for the end of the year. So the problem is a lot of banks that I've seen what they wanted to do was, because people aren't paying their mortgages now, what they wanted to have happen was those mortgage payments put at the end of the loan. So in 30 years from now, you'll have a balloon payment, which just gets paid off if you refinance or sell the house of however much money, in terms of the months that you skipped.
Right.
A lot of banks are not doing that. They're saying, okay, you skipped 4 months of mortgage payments through September. In September, you owe me 5 months of mortgage payments, the 4 months that you skipped and the month that's due.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a lot of money for people to come up with at one time.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I don't really know how that's going to play out. That's an ongoing issue.
Right. I mean, when the whole problem is the
interesting.
fact that you can't do it now because you're not making money, who's to say that in 5 months, all of a sudden you'll have those 4 months of payments when you haven't been making money?
Yep. I mean, if your mortgage is $2,500 a month, they're going to want you to come up with $12,000, to keep your mortgage current. And that's a lot of money to come up with at one time.
Mm-hmm. No, that's crazy. I don't know what the answer is, but that's a really tough situation.
Mm-hmm. That's for Governor Cuomo.
Well, thank you again.